Our scripture today is from the Gospel of Luke. We'll be reading from the 23rd chapter, verses 33 through 43. So hear this word. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by watching. But the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, "Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." He replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." This is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Well, we gather for Thanksgiving this week, and we're going to most likely many of you be sitting at a big table with lots of friends and family. And as you're eating, and we should be eating lots of food, you have my permission. Keep yourself silly. We often joke about food comas. That Thanksgiving nap is like a sacred time to me. Many of you are looking forward to that. But as you're eating this week and you want to give back and you want to help someone maybe who doesn't have enough food, Harbor is providing the meal for the feast gathering through Walking Tall Ministry on December 7th. This is a meal for local homeless people in our community. And it's a really big feast. In fact, our bishop's going to be there too, serving the homeless folks in our community communion. So Harbor's providing the meal. If you want to write a check to give toward the food, you're more than welcome to. We invite you to. Just write Walking Tall in the memo. So if you're eating this week and you want to do that, we invite you to. Also, I want to thank you. I was totally surprised this morning that y'all threw me a baby shower out there. I was shocked. I was like preaching in the last service and there's all this movement back here. I was like, what is going on in my church? And it was a baby shower, so thank you for all the gifts. Thank you for the cake and the punch. It was great. Thank you so much for doing that for me. So I want to begin today telling you about something that we used to do in the Christian church. The Sunday before Advent, today's the Sunday before Advent. It's hard to believe the Christmas season's almost here. But it used to be called, this Sunday used to be called Judgment Sunday. Yeah, Judgment Sunday. And it was this way for many, many years. Until in the 1950s, pastors figured out that people don't come to church on Judgment Sunday. It's a little too judgy, I think. That probably might have been the issue. So what they did is they changed this day to Christ the King Sunday. It's a day when we remember that Christ is not only the King of the present, He's going to be the King of the future as well. He's the Alpha and Omega. And so we remember that today before we begin Advent. And we begin with, when you talk about Christ the King, I think the perfect passage is the one that Emily read this morning. Because when you think about Christ the King, you think about what He did in those final moments of His life, that intense humiliation that He had. Humiliation, if you've ever been completely mortified, publicly, whatever it is, you know that can be like a refining fire. A refining fire of virtue and goodness. It also shows us who we really are when we're put under that kind of stress, that embarrassment, that humiliation. We see more of ourselves. And in this moment, we see exactly who Christ is. Because He's not just being humiliated in one moment, but there's like multiple layers of humiliation one on top of another. First and foremost, there's this moment where they nail that sign on top of the cross that says, "This is the King of the Jews." If you've ever seen Law and Order, you know that every jury that comes back, it's either guilty or not guilty. But Rome, their official public position on Christ was, "This is the King of the Jews." That's sarcasm. Their official public position on Christ was stark. This is the King of the Jews, and so that was hanging above his head there. It was another way to insult him, to make fun of him. That's actually not even anything that he ever said, but they put it on top of the cross there. They were doing everything they could to moralize this man. There was also the humiliation of just abandonment. His disciples left him, his friends left him, all those people that were shouting Hosanna on Palm Sunday, well, they're all gone. And what's left is his mother and a few other people, and that's it. Everyone there was a soldier mocking him. There were the religious elite were looking at him like this, and there were passerbys, sort of hurling insults at him. And so you have this, sort of humiliation of being abandoned. And then it says, the scripture says that they cast lot for his clothes, which is a way of saying they took his clothes off. They sort of took bets on him. And every picture of Christ being crucified, it looks like he's covered, but he really wasn't. He was naked on the cross. Imagine being on top of a hill, being stripped of your clothes, being hung to a tree. That's humiliation. Another form of humiliation was just a humiliation of pain. I mean, crucifixion was death by torture. It was brutal. And you didn't die from the wounds to your hands and feet. You died from suffocation. It took days for someone to die on the cross. In fact, they would leave you there for days, and even after you died, they'd still leave you there as a sign to the rest of the world that this is what happens when you cross Rome. There's a wonderful picture that I took in the Jerusalem Museum. There's an exhibit there that has a picture. Let's show that now. It has a picture of a real human bone from the first century of someone who was crucified. You can see it here. This is a foot bone. I'm not sure exactly which bone it is, and some of you I'm sure know this, but you can see the nail. Actually, it's not a nail, is it? It's a stake. It's a big. This is from the first century. And just imagine that going through your hands and going through your feet. How excruciating that must have been. And the only way to get a breath is to pull yourself up from that. You're suffering in front of others. And when I visit people in the hospital, they don't want others to see them suffer. They want to hide that from their friends and their family. They don't want that burden out there. But Christ suffered in front of everyone. And finally, the final layer of humiliation came from the simple fact that he was being crucified between two thieves. I was thinking this week of famous thieves. They usually come in pairs of two, right? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, right? Bonnie and Clyde, who were revered. They're like the Robin Hood of their day. People actually stood up for them. And also, like a modern-day version would be the Sticky Bandits. You may remember the Sticky Bandits. Formerly the Wet Bandits. These two were insidious. They wore these sticky gloves, like reached into the Good Samaritan bucket and pulled out shoes. Horrible people. And but the two famous thieves of all time were those two thieves on the cross next to Christ. Not because of who they were, but just simply because of who they were next to, those two famous thieves. We look at something like that of Christ on the cross, and we say, how could that happen? We look at things in the world, things in our community, and we listen to the news, and we say, how can evil have such reign in our world? How could this happen? The goal of evil, in any case, the goal of evil is always to shame people, to make you feel less than, to humiliate others. It may be very subtle, it may be sort of in a roundabout way, but that is ultimately the goal of evil, is to make all of you feel unworthy. I was cooking an extravagant meal one time for my wife. We were newly married. It was her birthday. I know a lot of you are going to be cooking this week. I was cooking yesterday. In fact, for some family that were in town, I did my classic kale salad. I too can make you a kale salad if you want one, but why are you laughing? I can do that for you. But anyway, I was cooking for my wife, and I think it was her birthday, I think. And in my head, I was going to just cook this extravagant meal. And the dessert was going to be her favorite. She loves peanut butter cookies, okay? So not only was I making peanut butter cookies, I was making peanut butter cookie sandwiches with like the cream in the middle. I was going to put it in the freezer. She'd come home. And in my head, I imagined her taking a bite of this cookie and going, wow, I married the right guy. Wow, I did good here. And so I go through the whole meal. And I'm not a good cook, but I found some recipes online on Food Network at 5 stars, you know. And I was cooking this up and cooked the cookies, and I get home and I'm watching her eat. Way back there, and she's eating the cookie, and she eats it and she goes, this is good. This is good. Did you follow a recipe with this? I said, I did, yeah. I was at a Food Network there with 5 stars. And she goes, Did you use all the right ingredients? I said, I did, yeah. Okay. Well, I think maybe one of your ingredients got mixed up. And come to find out, what I did is instead of reaching for the vanilla extract, I reached for the peppermint extract. And made ourselves some peppermint peanut butter cookies. And they were awful. They were terrible. In fact, the mint flavor in general is just an offensive flavor. I mean, it's like eating toothpaste. I just don't, like some of you who enjoy the mint chocolate combo, but I don't get it. I mean, chocolate is God's gift from heaven. We don't deserve chocolate, but He gave it to us anyway. And to ruin that with some toothpaste flavor, breath mint, I don't get it. I'm not saying it's a sin. It's an abomination. But I'm not saying it's a sin. But I'm pretty sure that not eating mint is somewhere in the Ten Commandments. I'm pretty sure. Between 5 and 6, maybe. Where was I? The cookies, yes, the cookies. So Lindsay's eating these cookies. She's a trooper. Let me tell you something. She ate every one of those cookies. Not all at once, but she ate them all. And she said, you know, Russ, I think they taste better with the peppermint. But she was a trooper. That's a good wife will do that for you to eat your bad food anyway. But yeah, every time I get an inflated ego, every time I think I'm doing well and I'm really doing something great, God has a way of sort of bringing me down and showing me how fallible I am. That's always a good thing. But also, remember, imagine you're cooking, Thanksgiving dinner at your house this week, and you're slaving in the kitchen, and you bring forth your offering to your family, and then they just make fun of you for how terrible it is. Wouldn't that be awful? That humiliation. You might never cook again if something like that were to happen. I want to tell you this. Jesus, I want you to know, Jesus was absolutely humiliated. Absolutely. Humiliation is when you feel that people are hurting you and making fun of you. You take that pain on. That's humiliation. But he didn't feel shame, because shame is what happens when you say to yourself, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. He felt the pain of humiliation, but he never felt the shame. We're finishing up a book, Life Together, in my study class on Wednesday evenings. And in this book, teacher Bonhoeffer said, Christians should not have an opinion of themselves. It's an interesting thing to say. They shouldn't have an opinion of themselves. And what he meant by that is we shouldn't think that we're too high, and we shouldn't think that we're too low. We are right here. We are who God called us to be. We're who God made us to be. And that's just who we are. For better or for worse, that's who we are. That's what we should believe in. And Jesus, he felt that. He was grounded in his identity. He was grounded in God's virtues and God's teachings and the teachings that he was living out, those teachings. And he knew who he was. In fact, he never lost control of who he was in that moment. He was hurt, but he never lost control. He never forgot who he was. We look at some things in this world, some things that have happened to you, and they've brought you great shame, and you feel unworthy. I know some of you today are carrying around some shame. I'm trying to tell you today, you don't have to anymore. You don't have to carry that shame. When evil works in this world, it's hard to sort of see how evil can thrive in this world, but it does. It has its moments. It wins a few battles here and there. Evil is typically industrious, cunning, profitable, loud, boisterous. Evil can be charismatic, while those who are good and virtuous tend to be what? A little bit quieter, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more measured. Maybe we don't really give a lot of attention to those who are good and virtuous because evil is the loudest. But in today's world, we often revere those who are leaning more toward evil because they're more entertaining. A great example of this might be Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, or President Carter, I should say, was considered by many scholars to be a really ineffective president. I mean, he just sort of always at the bottom of the list in terms of presidents. But in his retirement, he has proven to be a national treasure. This guy won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his efforts in making peace with other countries. Even in his 90s, he is unbelievably charitable. He's a champion of Habitat for Humanity. He's 95. He's dying of cancer, and he's out there digging holes for habitat. I mean, at 95, you should be sitting in a rocking chair enjoying life somewhere, but he's out there digging holes. He still, to this day, teaches Sunday school. In his 90s. We had some members recently who went to see him teach, and they brought back some pictures of him. And I was like, wow, he is the virtuous cream that has risen to the top. He is just this wonderful, humble human being who's good-natured and quiet and measured and reserved. but he's so grounded in who he is. It's a great example. You may have heard the expression that there's honor among thieves, but that's not really true. Real life is not Ocean's 11. It's not Brad Pitt and George Clooney, right? Real life is actually much, much different. I want to say this morning that evil, even though we may have our moments where we wonder if evil is going to thrive in this world, I want to tell you that evil never gets away with it. Evil will always come to justice. Evil will always defeat itself. And here's why. Evil has no moral compass. Evil has no center. It is, by its nature, it is rebellion without constitution. There's nothing to tether evil to anything. Evil has no center. It's just selfish rebellion. That's how the world began, right? Remember the fall of Adam and Eve. They're just being selfish when they took a bite of that apple. There was no real reason for it. They just did it. And so that's what evil is. There's no center to it, and so it has no longevity. Evil also never unites people. It always divides people. Evil by its very nature is so selfish that it may use you for a little bit. There may be some perceived loyalty there, but eventually it's going to divide people from each other. This is why Hitler and Stalin, and during the 1930s, they made a non-aggression pact. In the 1930s, it only lasted for a year because Hitler was just using him for temporarily. This is why when the Jews and the Romans teamed up to kill Jesus, their little partnership there never lasted. The Romans ate him alive a few years later. And so evil divides. That's why it will never have longevity. But finally, what I want to say about evil is this. Evil has no memory. Evil uses people and then forgets them. You may think that evil has some sort of lasting legacy or some sort of memory, but I'm telling you, it does not. Whereas Christ, on the other hand, is on the cross, being absolutely humiliated, and a thief turns next to him and says, "Will you remember me?" He says, "I will do better than remember you. Today you will be with me in paradise." And Christ has a remarkable memory. Good, virtuous people, God-fearing people will remember you. God will remember you. You know, I think that's one of the most underrated, undervalued things today is memory. When you're young, you don't appreciate memory, but when you get older and you see others around you who are losing their memory a little bit, maybe you yourself are forgetting things, you value it more. We get mad when people forget our names. We get mad when people forget to do things that we ask them to do. I remember one time I went to a party with other clergy, and our bishop was there. This is many years ago. It's a previous bishop, and I went up to the bishop. He had just appointed me to a church. So I thought, okay, we have something to talk about. So I go up to him, and I shake his hand. I say, "It's really good to see you again." And we have some small talk, and he says, so do you attend this church? I said, "No." I pointed to my name tag. I'm a pastor in your conference, and you just appointed me to a different church. And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's right. And what church is that again?" And I told him, and he said, "Oh, yeah, of course, I remember you. Of course I remember you. Yeah, you're friends with so-and-so." I'm like, "No, I don't know that person." And so it hurts when someone forgets your name, right? And not to be too harsh, but I am terrible at names. I've forgotten a lot of names in my life, and that's just the nature of being human. You just forget people's names sometimes. But it means a lot to us when we can remember other people's names. When we elect politicians to represent us somewhere, whether it be in Raleigh or Washington, if we feel like they have forgotten who we are, what do? Give them the boot, right? You forgot us in Raleigh. You forgot us in Washington. You forgot who we are. You're done. We value people who remember us. I remember there was this phrase I heard recently called institutional memory. Someone was talking about this. They were recently retired. And they were just sort of pondering, what will be my legacy after I retire? Will anyone remember me in a few years? You give your life in service to this institution, to a nonprofit or wherever, and then in a couple of years, you get a new boss, you get some new co-workers there, and they just totally forget who you are and all of your contributions. For those people who are retired, some of them wonder, why do you even remember in a couple of years at the place I spent 40 years working at? People want to be remembered. I remember my grandmother, when she was dying, she lost her total memory. And I went to visit her one time. She was in a nursing home in Augusta, and I drove by, and she didn't know who I was. I couldn't believe it. She had forgotten me. I went to my shoebox and pulled out some old pictures. There was a picture of me when I was a kid, and I pulled it out, and I said, "This is me right here." I showed her, and she was scared. She did not know what to do with me. She forgot who I was. Many of you have been in situations like that. You know just how incredibly precious memory is. You know, this thief on the cross, he asked for one thing. He could have asked to come down from the cross. He could have asked Christ to humiliate everyone. No, he said, just remember me. Can you just remember me? I just want to be remembered. When you're at the point of death, what do you want? You want to be remembered. You want to be remembered. We learned a lot about Christ in that moment. There was a moment where he could have just called on the multitude of angels to come down. He could have had the angel Gabriel wipe the blood from his face. He could have made a spectacle. He could have made a show, but instead he prayed for those people. Instead, he said to that guy on the cross next to him, I will remember you. Today you will walk with me in paradise. That is what virtuous, good, God-fearing people do. Being remembered is really important. I had a former parishioner. Every year on my birthday, she would call me. Not a big deal, but she would call me at 2 a.m. That's when she would call me, 2 a.m. in the morning. She would call me and she would say, happy birthday to you. Thanks. Great, that's great. And I got so much, she did it so often that I would actually turn my phone on silent on my birthday. And when I woke up, there'd be a voicemail from her. And I loved the calls, even though I didn't want to answer the calls. I loved it because, you know why? She remembered me. All those many years later, I wasn't her pastor, but she remembered me. She didn't forget me. It feels good. I wonder if there's someone in your life who you can give that gift to. You can give the gift of your memory to. They can be gone. They can be in heaven. You can just celebrate their name out loud at Thanksgiving dinner. Or maybe you can just call them or text them and say, hey, I hope you're doing well. I just want to make sure you're doing okay. That's the gift of memory. It's a very undervalued gift. In 1987, there was a woman living in Georgia. She was 28 years old. Her name was Kelly. And she was caught up in an evil scheme. She was scheming against her husband who had murdered her, who was cheating on her. And she wanted to kill him, and she wanted to run off with some other guy and get the insurance money. And she found this other guy, and they came up with a little scheme, and he ended up killing her husband. Well, they were both arrested. Because there's no loyalty among thieves, he sold her out. And he went to prison for the rest of his life, and she went on death row. This was in 97. In between that moment and her death, she converted to Christianity. And not only that, not only did she convert to Christianity, she became a Christian minister. She got a certificate in theology from Emory University, a really prestigious school in Atlanta. And she began ministering to other cellmates, people. She began talking through the walls. And there was a group of women there whom she especially ministered to. One in particular who was thinking about suicide, and she talked her out of it. And she became this pastor on death row. At the time, she was the only female on death row, not just in Georgia, but throughout the country. She was a very unique case. And you may remember hearing about this. When her execution date came closer, people began writing the parole board to say, can you ask for clemency? Can you just give her life in prison and not execute her? And actually, other prison inmates were writing letters for her. Correctional officers were doing the same. The children of the man that she killed wrote letters in her behalf. This other guy named Pope Francis also wrote letters in her behalf. Prominent Protestant theologians in America were writing letters for her. I mean, everyone was coming to her defense. Even the governor, who doesn't have the power to grant clemency in Georgia, even the governor was saying, please, do not execute this woman. But ultimately, they felt like they needed to carry out justice, and she died. And she said before she died, and this is just perfect, it's right in keeping with these two thieves. She said, I'm going to be forgotten, and they have already forgotten me. But God has my name written down somewhere. God remembers who I am. When we think about Christ the King, we have to remember the unflappable memory of God. Because everyone here will forget. Everyone here is going to have moments of forgetfulness. Everyone here is going to be forgotten by someone else, but God does not forget. You can live to the ripe old age to 99, but God will not forget that day when you were 12 and you gave your life to Christ. God will not forget all the good things that you did for other people, but He'll conveniently forget all the bad things you did as well. And so God has this unflappable memory. And so we praise God today that God, the God that we worship, is a God that never, ever forgets. who we are. Let's pray. Almighty God, we recognize today that we have forgotten some people in our lives, and we need to reach out to them. So help us to follow your example and do more than just remember someone's name at a party, and do a little bit more than just call someone on their birthday, but to truly reach out to them and to love them and to show our support for them. Lord, we ask you now to be with us and give us the reassurance that you offer that you, Lord, will never forget our name. No matter what happens to us, God, we know that your name, our name, will not be forgotten by you. We pray this in your name. Amen.